In episode 17 of Road to Procho, Matt dives into managing injuries with training.
Broken femur, probably not going to train legs, probably not going to train at all.
Matt does a thing with his wrist.
So if we almost let our wrists go kind of like floppy.
And Matt reviews the Arnold Classic, gives us a new house tour, and does a Q&A. Starring MTV Cribs superstar Matthew Orchard, Matt's quiet Chris, and last but not least, Mario the Ostian.
No, but they're super oversized.
Fuck, I just lost 10 kilos of muscle.
Look how elite this is. Napoli chicken. That's an elite meal right there. Reshaped by Loz. Welcome back to the tube. What's the scene in The Matrix where he bends the spoon? Do you know what fucks me up about The Matrix? That scene specifically, when he walks into the Oracle and she's like, "Don't worry about the vase." And he's like, "What vase?" He turns and knocks the vase off. Vase or vase? I prefer vase. But then the part after that, she's like, "The thing that's gonna twist your noodle later is if I didn't say anything, would you still have hit it?" It fucks with my head. Self-fulfilling prophecies. Think about it. Big brain things. You know that's why Aurora's name is Aurora?
Why's that?
Because the day that she was born, the Aurora Borealis
Aurora Borealis
was the most prominent that it had been in 25 years. And we already had the name Aurora shortlisted, but then when she was born, that was I refreshed Facebook, because that's what you did 5 years ago, and it was right at the top, and I was like, it's meant to be. And then when we were on the way to the hospital, we were following a van that was Aurora painting.
That's it?
I've had a lot of people ask me about my diet, Mitch. One thing that's a dead giveaway, because this meal looks good, you know for a fact I didn't prepare it, because I am the most boring bodybuilding eating human in the planet on Earth. I actually went to pick up my meals from Loz last night, and I was eating a meal whilst I went to pick my meals up, and I was just eating just plain chicken and rice and some green veggies. And she's like, "Is that what you eat when I don't prep your meals?" And I was like, "Yes." And she's like, anxiety riddled. You see Max Verstappen won Bahrain by 25 seconds? Did you see that?
Yeah, don't act like you know what that means.
I know. I'm an F1 fan. Stayed up late to watch it.
Is it 2 a.m.?
I did not. I didn't watch it. So actually probably should know this off the top of my head, but I don't. Actually, it'll be here because Tom sent me an email just recently about my new macros. Tom Rodriguez. My laptop's broken, bro. I've got this laptop purchased for me my first year of personal training, 1987. So, turns out I'm actually not eating as much as I thought I was. No, so my current diet, this is a common question. What are you eating? What's your macros? Why is that funny? Current macros are 250 grams of protein, 60 grams of fat, 500 grams of carbs on training day, 420 grams of carbs on rest days. Whose YouTube video was I watching last night? I was watching someone's YouTube video, and the cameraman wasn't paying attention because they were too busy looking at their camera, and I was like, "That's you." 3,500 calories is still a fair bit of calories, I suppose. You know what was the most exciting thing for me that I came to realization last night? I'm not even out of second gear yet. No, I don't mean in the way that I'm meticulous and working, but I mean in terms of, when I say we're not even out of second gear yet, I don't have any thermogenics, I don't have any fat burners, haven't even thought about using Trenbolone. I'm doing 3 piece of shit cardio sessions a week that aren't even really cardio sessions. They're not proper cardio sessions, it's just on the bike for 20 minutes or 5 Ks, 5 incline on the treadmill. It's not cardio. And my body is just responding every week. And I wonder if this is attributed to the fact that I haven't prepped in almost 18 months now. And because I did effectively 3 preps back to back before I turned pro. So I had the first prep, which I got 7 weeks out, and then they pulled the show because of COVID. And then I prepped again, lost to Callum, prepped again, turned pro, in 3 seasons back to back. And then taking a substantial amount of time off in between. And now I'm going back into a deficit that I haven't really been in for a long period of time. My body's responsiveness is crazy. My strength, majoritively, is almost where it was when I was peak off season, using less pharmacology than I've ever used. Like I said, no thermogenics, no fat burners, no Trenbolone, no I'm not even using injectable L-carnitine. Yeah, I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you. So to think that, and from a stress standpoint, from an output standpoint, from a, like when everyone, like the one question that everyone gets asked when they're in prep is, oh, how are you feeling? Or how's prep going? Are you struggling yet? And I can honestly say that I'm not even remotely struggling. I'm in good shape right now, I think. So to think that I'm in good shape, I'm still strong, there's a lot of bullets left in the chamber, for lack of a better analogy, to use towards the later stages of prep, that there's still so many variables that we can play with. It's really exciting. Like it's a positive thing to me, and I'm really looking forward to it. The ease of this prep right now it was almost concerning. It was almost concerning because I was like, I don't feel like I'm in prep yet, and I'm 12 weeks out. And then I was talking to Top Golf, and I mean, obviously in the past, I've done shorter preps. So like my last prep, I did a 10-week prep. The week before that, I think it was maybe 12 or 14 weeks. So the fact that I started from a prep mindset and a prep mentality from 20 weeks out, or whenever we started filming, probably even longer, I think 24 weeks out, that it's allowed me that comfortability, that space, that cushion, that scenario where it's not balls to the wall straight out of the gate, bury myself into the ground and hope for the best and make weight. It's, let's be a little bit more articulate, let's be a little bit more methodical, let's be a little bit more, thought process invoking, going about it the right way. It's a much healthier way of doing it, I think, for sure. And I think it's going to be a much more beneficial look, rather than just driving my body into the ground and just hoping for the best and hoping that my genetics will shine through. Now we can be a bit more methodical about it, a bit more relaxed about it, a bit more positive about it. And all of that will hopefully transition to a better, slightly more professional looking physique. So yeah, someone asked, training whilst carrying an injury or training through an injury. Now, the first thing you need to ask yourself when considering whether or not you should train through an injury is the severity of the injury. Like, is your femur snapped in half, or have you sprained a finger? Like, there's levels to the shit. Now, obviously, broken femur, probably not going to train legs. Probably not going to train at all, really. But perfect example. Like, we had Chris earlier in today, and we got some footage of that. So I think Mitch is going to put some of that in. But currently working through some forearm impingements and some forearm pain when bicep curling in different variations. So it's like, okay, this is not a debilitating injury. This is not something that's going to withhold our training completely. We can train around it, but it's about finding the best ways to train around that injury for two reasons. One, we still want to train the specific muscle group. We don't want to not train it completely. We still want to provide some stimulus, but we also want to allow that tissue injury to heal. So it's like, how can we put tension and contraction through the target muscle group without aggravating the soft tissue injury and delaying the healing process? Because when it comes to anything, especially tendon, ligament, soft tissue, stuff like that, there's only so much work that you can do to make it better outside of just letting time heal it. So, finding different variations, different angles, and it really is just a trial and error thing. I think Mario spoke about it in the video earlier, is that rehabilitation is just trial and error to some extent. I mean, all coaching is trial and error to some extent, but it's trying something. Is there pain? Is there discomfort? Do we feel like we can get some form of stimulus where we want to be feeling it without aggravating the injury? And I think you just need to be honest with yourself, because Chris is a type of person that will train through a broken femur. Like he would try and squat with a broken femur. That's just the type of person he is. He's just built different like that. But is that conducive to recovery, to long-term? Then absolutely not. So be honest with yourself in a sense of me training. And the other caveat is like people that are like, oh, should you train when you're sick? And again, there's levels to this. If you've got the sniffles, could you probably get through a session? Yeah, absolutely. If you've got debilitating respiratory disease, probably don't go to the gym.
I think it's a combination of everything.
Yeah.
So weight and volume.
Yeah.
Maybe poor technique as well.
Okay.
Can you have poor technique when you're doing your bicep curl?
If it's too heavy, absolutely.
Oh, of course, yeah, absolutely.
Because you're not recruiting the bicep.
Yeah. Well, we have discussed since my bicep issues and my forearm issues, that me removing load substantially and controlling, like I'll do an incline seated bicep curl and I'll use the 7.5 kilo dumbbells, and I will get skin splitting pumps because of the way that I perform the exercise, rather than what I would normally do is grab the 15s and eat those motherfuckers, you know what I mean?
So the tendons are pissed off and aggravated, and we need to avoid this. That rotation through there is creating torsion at the elbow, and the tendons are getting too pissed off. Right, so they're gone. All right, so if anything, you're gonna do eccentric loading through there.
Which is exactly what I was doing. So I was doing like incline seated, bilateral, staying supinated. So a lot of times when I would do it, you know, I would come to a full neutral lockout and come up that way. So the second that I removed that, stayed supinated the entire time, reduced that load, controlled the eccentric phase, I found that I was able to perform much more efficiently, get a better pump, and my recovery was better.
Realistically, you want to start strengthening through here. So eccentric loading through there as well. Your weight has to be dropped dramatically. Then you actually want to train the forearms as well. Best way to train the forearm, you could jerk off.
I was like, oh, everything in my brain was saying not to make a masturbation joke just then. So bad.
5 times a day.
This is where Mario comes in handy.
Add Mario the osteo.
There's a reason why I see Mario weekly. That's the reason why.
Ending going.
I don't jerk people off.
As soon as you walk into Mario's office, just throw that $20 cash on the table.
So yeah, look, it doesn't have. I don't have to be heavyweights, but you can even just.
There is absolutely no pain.
Absolutely no pain there. But if you were to twist up,
Right at the top.
right at the top. Now, granted, it is only a 5 kilo dumbbell, and you're normally doing this with a 15 or 12 and a half, right?
Okay, so in saying that, well, let's load you up, ported through here, which will help us through there.
No pain.
No pain.
See?
But we're still getting a bicep stimulus.
Absolutely, you are.
And from
Yeah.
Right there. Yeah. So the second that we activate through here on that, like I said, that motion there with the wrist locking back. So for you, if you were to do can you try something for me? Try a supinated bicep curl, but let the weight sit through the wrist. So rather than pulling it all the way to you, do we still get pain that way?
right at the top.
Right at the top.
But not as intense.
Not as intense. So there's another thought process there. So if we're not trying to contract through here, so we're just letting that, so our hands, like we've always spoken about in back movements anyway, your hands are literally tools to hold the weight, right? The hands and the forearms aren't used to move the weight when we're performing an exercise. They're used to hold onto the weight so that we can use the targeted muscle group for whatever the purpose, right? So same process here. So if we almost let our wrists go kind of like floppy, let the weight sit in our wrist, it's not going to be heavy enough to do any damage to our wrist, but we're still getting bicep tension and removing any bias from this forearm right here. There's another thought process as well. And stopping just short of where that range of motion becomes painful, that gives us an opportunity to train around that. Put my calves, you can put my calves in though if you want.
Where are they?
You piece of shit. You piece of shit. You piece of shit.
Oh fuck.
They are.
This is how you know he's a red flag. We're discussing his new program, and I was like, how do you want to split it up? And he's like, can I please have 2 leg days a week? And I was like, I knew you were a fucking red flag. The whole concept of asking for help and taking help and utilizing external sources to benefit you is like, I think I spent so long being like, no, I have to do it myself because it's more rewarding or it's more beneficial or I get more out of it by struggling through it alone. And, it becomes very aware and present to me that if I had have taken the help when it was offered or at least asked for it when I knew that I needed it, I'd be in a much more advantageous place now than where I'm at. Or I would have gotten to where I'm at a lot quicker and a lot sooner and then surpassed that. Like you don't get any more benefit by doing things the hard way.
I feel like asking for help takes a level of courage that trying to just tough it out on your own. I've been fucking hard.
Yeah.
Tried to be hard.
Right, we both have, right? Yeah.
And it's scary to ask for that help, but you do it on your own and you just tread water and you get fucking tired and you just sink. Whereas, asking for that fucking buoy to help you float is not a fucking bad thing.
Like especially, obviously if we relate things to bodybuilding, like you don't get an extra gold medal if you win by not getting help.
No, that's
you know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like you don't get extra prize money if you win because you worked harder than everyone else.
Yeah.
If you win, you win. If you lose, you lose. So why would you not take any advantageous scenario that you can to be benefited from help from an external source if it's going to improve you long term. And then I was, talking to another person at the posing workshop on the Sunday, sort of saying how it wasn't till I fully comprehended that the real success in this industry is how much knowledge you can pass on to other people. Like, that's the true definition of success, and why I do what I do and why I'm approaching what I'm doing the way that I'm approaching it, is because it's how much can I benefit other people by doing what I'm doing. And that's the true definition of success, in my opinion. It's like, if you shut everyone away, safeguard your secrets, work hard in silence, and win a fucking trophy, but you haven't affected anyone else in the process of doing that, then what have you really won?
Someone asked me if posing and stage presence is important. It's crazy how much of a difference that makes. And I mean that in the most sincerest of forms, is that if someone's not confident on stage, you can see that from a mile away. And if I can see it from a mile away, the judges can see it from 2 feet away. Is that fake it till you make it is the best way to be when it comes to bodybuilding. At least if you pretend and act like you know what you're doing, people will believe you, because no one actually knows what they're doing. And I brought that up at the posing workshop. We had the IFBB posing workshop on Sunday. And probably 75 to 80% of the people that were there were first timers or never competed before, which is always great when you see people like that at an event like that are willing to learn and are willing to get better. And 9 times out of 10, certainly more often than it doesn't, people that are willing to learn and open to learning and taking advice from people that are in a position that they want to be in, they usually get to that stage a lot quicker, and they're a lot more comfortable doing so. And that was the most evident by the 5 or 6 people that I've been working with in posing personally, one-on-one here at Peak Performance, seeing them operate and seeing them pose and hold themselves at the posing workshop with the confidence and ability was night and day compared to those people that hadn't. That's reflected on stage, not just in practice or at a posing workshop. On stage, you can tell who's practiced and who hasn't. And more often than not, it's the difference between first call out, second call out, or first place, second place, whatever the case may be. Posing conditioning, stage presence, the way you hold yourself, the way you walk, the way you transition, the way you stand side of stage, the way you sign on, the way you sign off, like everything plays a role. The entire time that you are on the bodybuilding stage, you are being judged the entire time. And we got to remember, it's a fucking beauty pageant at the end of the day. There's no 2 ways about it. It's a subjective sport based entirely on the way that you look. And someone's subconscious is going to play a role in that. If someone, prefers one thing over another or likes one thing specifically over another thing, even if they're not consciously letting that affect their decision, it's going to affect their decision. So even down to the intricacies of smiling as you hit a pose, or smiling as you transition, or waving as you sign off rather than just putting your head down and walking off stage, like all of these things play, granted, a minute role, but the compounding effect of all of those things very, very frequently can be the difference between places. Do I think stage presence was a factor at the Arnold Classic? Yes. In short, yes. And I think if you look and you watch the Arnold Classic, especially in Classic Physique, Ramon is tired and Wesley looks fresh. Urs was spilled, in my opinion, because I think that they tried to get him to the size of Ramon and Wesley, and Urs should not play the size game. He plays the conditioning game. So as soon as you take Urs out of what he's used to and what his strengths are and try to play up to other people's strengths, it's never going to be a good time. The most common question I got from the Arnold Classic was, Wesley can challenge Chris. Now, respectfully, no, he can't. And let me explain why. Because everyone's like, Wesley is the same size as Chris, so he can match up. Because that's obviously Chris's biggest thing, is that he looks so much bigger than everyone else on stage, right? He's, especially when it was him and Terrence or Breon, like it's apples and oranges in the most extreme form. So Chris was just so overpowering from a size standpoint. And then obviously Ramon has the size, but he doesn't quite have the stature of Chris. And now Wesley has the size and the stature. But I think the disparity of size between Chris and Ramon is closer than the disparity in shape between Wesley and Chris. Does that make sense? Yeah. So for what Ramon lacks in size against Chris, he makes up for in shape, in flow, in classic je ne sais quoi, if you will. But what Wesley the gap that Wesley bridges from a size standpoint is smaller than the gap disparity of shape between Chris and Wesley, in my opinion. But then this is the thing that I try and explain to so many people, is that you don't have to have a small waist to be good at classic, but your waist has to look small. There's a difference. Because I bet you Wesley's waist isn't that small. No. But due to the fact that he has high lat insertions and he has an enormous back, like his back was huge, it makes his waist look small. Now, he doesn't have the greatest quad insertions and he doesn't have the greatest quad genetics. Can't relate. The people got this mixed up as well, because I posted on my story that Wesley is, by definition, the original rendition of what classic was supposed to be. When classic physique was invented, it was made in the shape of Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? That was the classic physique. That is what they wanted people to look like. They didn't want people to look like open bodybuilders that were clouds and just mountains of muscle. They wanted the shape, they wanted the symmetry, they actually wanted a disparity between upper and lower. They didn't want monster ginormous quads. This is in the early days of classic. Obviously it's evolved to the point where it's at now, where it's more about your X-frame and your taper and your sweeps and your insertions and the way that you pose and your stage presence and so many other caveats. But in its initial, I guess, like early days of classic physique, that Wesley Vissers was the prototypical classic physique. I mean, he won Nick Strength and Power's golden era of bodybuilding, like competition that he ran by a country mile, because his physique is so aesthetically pleasing from a classic standpoint. The size that Chris has compared with the flow that Chris has, compared with the shape that Chris has, compared with the conditioning that he gets, he's the champ until he's not the champ anymore, because he decides not to compete. And I don't think anyone could ever take his title. If Wesley comes in as peeled as he came in, because his conditioning was elite, that's the best he's ever looked from a conditioning standpoint, hands down. There's absolutely no reason why Wesley couldn't be top 3 at the Olympia this year. Which breaks my soul, because I love hers. But what? Let's go. Hey MTV, welcome to my crib. Honey, I'm home. So that's the new crib. That's today. So that's today in a nutshell. No training today because I'm listening to my body. Because I trained Sunday, so my rest days are all out of whack. So trained Sunday because we're at the posing workshop and you can't go to Brunswick Doherty's and not train. So I went to Doherty's Brunswick, trained back, had the posing workshop, then trained yesterday. So I was like, my split's gonna work out if that was another question I actually had, was what's my current training split? So yeah, so today was busy morning, lots of work, filmed this, saw out the new crib. I'm gonna start doing the process of moving into that over the next few days, which is very exciting. It's gonna make life a hell of a lot easier. And it's just a fresh start, you know? I'm not one for omens, but the last time I moved house in a prep, it ended pretty well for me. So it's all fucking coming together. I'm gonna see Mario this afternoon because it's Tuesday and we always see Mario on Tuesday. Nothing overly concerning. My traps started to calm down, my forearms started to calm down, my hips are in a much better spot and my knees actually don't hurt me at all. So at the moment, body's, I would say maybe 75%. It's just this left trap still giving me a bit of grief, so Mario's gonna go through that. But training vlogs are back from next week. Are we gonna train next week? Due for a leg day. So if there's any specific movements that you would like to see on leg day, comment below. Unless it's a Bulgarian split squat, in which case don't comment it, because I'm not doing it. I don't care. Just not doing it. Remove yourself as a follower if you're gonna comment Bulgarian split squats. But that's it. You guys know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, share. All the views are very much appreciated. But we're gonna race home, get some treatment, get a meal in, go pick up Rosa. So yeah, happy days.